the issue of cheap clients, right? Why are you attracting them? Why does it seem that cheap clients are attracted to certain designers? And so what we're going to do is we're just going to break it down. And we're going to give you the 3 reasons that you're attracting cheap clients.
Yeah, and let me also just clarify that there are some designers who, maybe they work with exactly who they want to work with. And then all of a sudden it just seems like out of nowhere, they start attracting the wrong kind of clients.
Yeah.
Or or maybe gradually over time, I've seen this happen a lot with designers where they've been working for 15 years and like everything was great for 10 years. And then all of a sudden the last like 2, 3, 5 years, their quality of client has just started to go downhill. And it's like, why is that happening? Why is it all of a sudden I'm attracting like really different? Is it just something happening in the world? Like, is it the fact that house exists and now everyone's just getting killed on price or on their design fees, or what's the deal? What's happening? Yeah. So this is a great topic to explore because it's super, super important, obviously.
Yeah. I love that because it's not a matter of just, I'm out of school, I'm out of design school, and now I'm just getting all these, cheap clients. It's, I'm a seasoned professional. What is going on? Yeah. So let's dive in, shall we?
Yeah. Because the cheap client experience can strike at any time in a designer's career. They're always out there, always lurking, ready to pounce on us and take all our money and take all our time. So, well, we don't like it. So Nona, what's the first reason that designers end up attracting cheap clients, whether it's from the beginning of their career when they're just getting started or even later on when they're quite seasoned?
It is directly related to not targeting a group, a kind of client that you actually want to work with. What will happen, and let's be clear, this happens. So you're not wrong, you're not bad. It's just bringing some awareness. If on your website you talk about being budget friendly, or you work with all kinds of budgets, or you work with everyone. Well, if you work with everyone, that's going to include some cheap clients, or specifically, clients who love HGTV or think of themselves as designers, or who really just want an assistant. They don't want to work with they want to work with a professional, but they really just want an assistant who they can either boss around or just push back on prices and everything in between.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. The designer who works with everyone often ends up working with no one. Right? Like you're thinking, well, I want to share my gift with everybody, with the world. That's a natural instinct. That's a good instinct. It's positive to want to share it with people. I want to bring design to people who can't afford it normally. Okay, so let's think about what you just said. In that, I've seen that on people's websites. I want to bring design to everybody. I want to bring design to people who are having trouble paying the rent. I mean, come on. Like when you think about that, and you break that down. What does that mean? That means that for this person, a service that like they can't afford, basically, is what you're trying to give them. And remember that what money is more than anything is it makes parts of our life easier, right? We get to solve problems that we wouldn't be able to solve otherwise through the services of other people. And it's a great thing. That's one of the most powerful things that money can be for us. So, remember that if you say, I want to work with everybody, that's going to include the people for whom money is the big struggle, the big challenge in their life. And they may not be paying for any kinds of services, much less interior design services, which for most people, let's be honest, it's going to be more of a luxury service out there.
Yes, absolutely. And there are avenues, if you want to have that equanimity of design, but that's different than when you're a residential interior designer and you're all of a sudden you're attracting all these cheap clients. Number one, you're probably putting out that you're for everyone instead of for someone.
And just to piggyback on that too, what's important to remember is that I talk to designers all the time who maybe because they're going through this spell where they're attracting all these cheap clients, they start to second guess themselves. They start to lose confidence in their abilities, and they start to think, gee, maybe I should be doing like e-design. Maybe I should create like some easy package that like anybody can buy. But there's a huge problem with that. Number one, it's because you're violating who you are as a designer. If you have been working, doing higher end projects, or even just aspire to do that, and then all of a sudden you're going to undercut everything you do by creating cheap one-off packages. I mean, first of all, you're not going to solve your problem of attracting all those cheap people. You're just going to get more of them. You're just going to attract all of that energy into your life, and it's never going to end. So it's, in that case, you're actually, and I counsel designers this all the time, you're doing literally the opposite of what you need to do.
Well, yes, and I mean, that is the second problem. That's number two. Is that either there is no process, or the designer is violating their process.
Yeah. So tell us about that. What you mean by process?
The process of negotiating their rates, starting to only bill for some of the time in order to avoid any discomfort, or because they think that clients are going to pay it. For not really knowing what they're like, what is it that they charge, and then when someone pushes back, then they say, "Oh, well, then that's okay. I'm the problem." Right. So they don't have a process that they're able to follow, so that when someone pushes back, they say, "Oh, okay, no, I know what's going on," or they have a process and somebody pushes back, and then they say, "Oh, okay," and they violate, and they violate their own boundaries. They violate their own profession. And thus the relationship becomes one that is in line with clients who push back on prices, who shop you, who, they want to buy everything on Wayfair. Like, it's just no bueno.
Yeah. And the main thing is, at that point, you've really given away your power as a business owner, right? Like, not only have you given away your power as a designer, because cheap clients are not following your advice. They're saying, how can I do it cheaper? So they're not even taking your design advice at that point. But on top of that, really now they're the boss. In a sense, they're the designer and you're just an assistant. And your job is to help realize their vision instead of the other way around, Yeah. And it's wonderful to certainly think that your clients, have an input into the work you're doing and give you feedback, and you want them to be happy. But if they were a great designer, they would do this themselves.
Yeah. If they knew, if they had the ability, then they wouldn't need nor want to work with a designer. They wouldn't want anyone messing with their design.
They'd be a designer. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that we see this so much that designers, they forget almost how much skill and how much talent and how much experience goes into being a designer. It's not something that someone can pick up in a weekend. Or, you
don't trip over AD and then all of a sudden decide, like, oh, I'm going to become a professional designer. Like, no. That's years of honing a craft, education in a variety of ways.
Yeah, formal and informal education, self-training. I mean, on and on and on. It just never ends.
Which ties in again. So now let's move on to the third step, or the third reason, because it goes in line with violating a process or not having a process and giving that up. And the third issue is that designers undervalue who they are and what they do and the impact that they create in not just one person's life, but in anyone who walks into a space. And that it can come from a lack of confidence, a lack of experience. You get to a place where all of a sudden you just have all these cheap clients, or clients who, again, push back, shop you, want to see your receipts, want to know exactly what you're doing all the time. And then they start to actually believe people. They start to believe these cheap clients. And it's a slippery slope.
It really is, because the thing that I see is, I talk to designers and they've lost their passion for design, period. They're like, I'm thinking about closing my business because,
Yeah.
I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't want to work with these people. I've created my own nightmare. Like, it's terrible. It's exactly what I don't want in my business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a tragedy. It's truly the definition of tragedy, which is it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So because you've managed to attract these clients who are not right for you into your business, now all of a sudden you have created your own worst enemy. I mean, you are your own worst enemy. You've invited the enemy through the gates. They are through. The Trojan horse has been emptied and the Trojans are everywhere. It's too late. Like, they're in the gates, you are stuck. So what happens is there has to be a reckoning. There has to be a time where, first of all, you have to recognize the problem, and you have to understand that you are 100% responsible yourself for creating this problem. And this is difficult because it's much easier to be like, oh, my clients are so bad, and it's so easy to complain and talk about like how bad they are and how ungrateful and they should know better. Absolutely, that's absolutely true. But you created this situation. It's 100% on you. When you have this problem, you need to take responsibility and fix it. So Nona, what's some tips that we can give people about how to think about this so that they can move past it?
The number one is to stop and take some deep breaths and remember who you are. When it comes to undervaluing, when it comes to violating processes, and it comes to accepting clients who start negotiating it from the very beginning and still accepting them, that leads to a sense of being powerless. And so the reason to take a minute is because even though all this may be very real and it's happening in the moment, once the decision is made that this has to change, I am not working with these kinds of clients anymore. I am not going to spend all my time looking at their Pinterest board for stuff that's made overseas, is going to last 18 months and break. I'm not doing this anymore. Is to remember you have the power. And when I say you have the power, it is your power as a designer. It is your power as a business owner that you can take the steps to make a change. Change who you're attracting, change your processes, change how much you are or not getting paid. The greatest mistake that we as humans make is when we start to feel powerless, we forget that nobody can take our power without our permission. And in that, to remembering your power is that if once you decide to do something different, you're going to use that power to do things differently in order to get the outcome you've decided to get for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that's so powerful. You want to begin with the end in mind. So when you think about designing a space, like, you have a vision and then you work backwards, right? So you think about that end goal, you think about what you want that space to look like, and then you work backwards for how you're going to make it happen. The same thing has to be done with your business. The first thing you have to decide is, what do I want this to look like? Mm-hmm. What do I want my life to be like instead of what I currently have? If you are answering texts at all hours of the day and night, if you're constantly on email, if you're working Saturday, Sunday, all holidays, doing installs, supervision, being an unpaid construction manager, which we see a lot, all kinds of problems where like your personal life is just being obliterated by your business. Mm-hmm. That's not healthy. That's not actually a recipe for creative fulfillment. It's not a recipe for success with your family, where they're going to be happy because you never spend time with them. You're always on your phone. You're always answering the demands and the needs of other people, and you don't have any time for that. So there's just endless problems that come from letting the barbarian in the gates and then accepting that as the reality. Mm. And unfortunately, I've seen people be so beat down that they really do just give up. And that's the biggest shame of all, because if you have a viable business, you're totally in control of transforming that into a dream experience where you get paid whatever you want, work with amazing clients who love you and write you big fat checks with a smile, and go on vacation, spend time with your family, take all weekends off, turn off a cell phone, turn off the computer, and just unplug. And that life is very possible, but it's intentional. Mm-hmm. That's the key. is the intention that you set to actually do what you want and to have life be the way you want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is how then cheap clients, they suddenly disappear. And they obviously they don't disappear because somebody's working with them, but they stop being in your bubble.
Yep.
That your processes, your boundaries are then respected. And that your value is seen by others and respected, and the reciprocity of then being paid what you're worth. It all goes together. It really is. So if you have the problem of cheap clients shopping you, pushing back, all of those, right? There are reasons why it's happened. The key is to look at what have you decided you want moving forward, and then taking action with the power that you have possible.
Yeah. And I just want to put it out there just so people don't think that we're just ganging up on them and making them feel bad for no reason. I have been in exactly this kind of business that was attracting lowball, price-sensitive tire kickers.
Mm.
And I've transformed that exact same business into a high profit margin, work at your leisure, work. Obviously, you got to get the work done. You got to keep it going, right? But clients who love you, respect you, do everything by appointment, no weekend work, no going to people's houses, that kind of stuff. You can absolutely take exactly the same business and turn it from a nightmare into a dream. Mm-hmm. And you can actually do it quickly.
Yeah.
My experience, in just a few months, you can be absolutely transforming it and never looking back. And then being like a year later, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I used to do it that way. And I felt this exact feeling myself of just being astounded at how taking control and being intentional can transform everything for good. And then you'll never look back and you'll be like, oh my God. And then anytime you talk to anybody who's suffering, you're going to feel so bad for them because it's totally unnecessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the advantage that we have is the way that we talk about it is because this is what we do all day.
Yep.
Like we only work with residential, or some commercial, but professional interior designers. This is all we do. So just like a designer can walk into a space and know almost immediately what needs to be changed and why, that's what we do when it comes to interior designers and their businesses. And whatever the challenges that they're facing, they can feel so overwhelming, like cheap clients, and really knowing, well, with just like a few shifts, that dream that you have and you deserve, and the business that you either had at one time or is possible because you see other designers right out of school a few years later making six figures, like it's possible.
Absolutely.
And so that is why what we make sure to make very clear is that if you are struggling with this at all, if any of this resonated with you, if you feel like you have just been stuck in first gear for way too long, then we invite you. What we do is we open our calendars. And so for the next 3 days, we've opened up time for both of us. And if you go to breakthroughcall.us, this is the place where you can then find a day and find a time, and we will meet with you privately to discuss the challenges you're facing and to help you find that understanding, that breakthrough of what it is that's necessary for you to get to this next step, whether that's a collaboration or with us or in another direction. What we want is, the saddest thing that we do see for us is when a designer gives up on themselves. When they shutter their business, they start to think
somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah, they go to work for somebody else. They get mistreated by clients, by vendors, anyone. I mean, it's just, I'm going to calm myself because I can get.
Yeah. But that's the thing, is that the one thought we want to leave you with today is just to understand that you're not alone,
Mm-hmm.
and you can have a different business. Not just any designer, but you.
Mm-hmm.
You can live totally differently. If you're experiencing some of these negative things right now, you don't have to put up with it, and you deserve better. Mm-hmm. That's the thought we want to leave you with. Connect with us at breakthroughcall.us. We'll help you with a strategy to make sure you never have to deal with tire kickers ever again. You'll be amazed at how simple it is. Mm-hmm. You just have to make the decision that you're done with it.
Yeah. You have to decide that your worth is greater than what you're experiencing. And we will help you find that next step, find that door to walk through.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, listen, always a pleasure. Go out there and stay away from those cheap clients. All right.
All right,
we'll see you guys later. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.